Ladies and gentlemen, for our next fight, please welcome.
Welcome to 360 Sports Network, otherwise known as 3SN on Twitter. I'm Greg Bashiro, and with us tonight are Alex Delaverson and James Dotson. Gentlemen, how are you out there?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Any finer, I'd be a duck right now, and not just any type of duck, but an Oregon duck. But nonetheless, James, what's going on out there in Happy Valley Land?
Well, speaking of ducks, it's raining cats and dogs outside. And why the Oregon duck? I'd rather have the Aflac duck out there.
Oregon Ducks have a tendency to get drafted higher in the NFL draft. But anyway, nonetheless, we're here to talk tonight about the NFL draft. The good, the bad, and the not so pretty and the very ugly. So leading us off tonight, we're going to talk about the good that has happened in the NFL draft. And yes, there was a draft, so that is very good. Alex, who do you have are the teams that were the A-plus winners of this 2011 draft?
I have the Bengals and the Lions. The Bengals drafted Dalton out of TCU, and they got a great receiver with Green. Palmer's going to leave, let's be honest about that, and so is Ocho Cinco and T.O. So naturally, they filled their two biggest needs. Neither of those players are going to step in right away and be a factor. But down the road, I can see this being a very great tandem. Hopefully, I think Dalton will fit Jay Gruden's West Coast offense. So I think it's a complete win there. And yes, it's the Bengals, so they're not really in the best situation just because that whole organization's kind of crummy. But maybe they'll be what the organization needs to get this thing turned around. How do you feel about that, Greg?
I definitely, I think Cincinnati did very well in the draft. They got a fantastic receiver. They needed to get what they got. And, I really like Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton is basically, he is a younger Phillip Rivers. If you could say that and keep a straight face, because Phillip Rivers is pretty young. But you got the same guy out there that's got the same type of fire, the same type of, fire and passion in his play. So I think Cincinnati did great. Detroit, however, I am in love with what Detroit did, picking up Nick Fairley in the first round. And I was actually surprised that Nick Fairley didn't go to the Carolina Panthers like I was hoping that he would. I was hoping that the Carolina Panthers wouldn't lose sight, but that's another story for another day. But go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, the Lions are my other winner, too. I love the combination of Fairley and Sue. I mean, that run defense is going to be great for years to come. I like Titus Young pairing up with Johnson, and I like the Illinois running back LaSure. So he's going to team up with Best, too. So their selections, they're kind of creating duos there. Like I said, Young Johnson and Fairley and Sue, now LaSure and Best. So I think this was a very smart draft for the Lions. And the Lions historically, or this past decade anyway, kind of don't draft smart at all. I mean, it's usually receiver, receiver, receiver. So I think they're starting to do things right. I think you can agree with me there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that's been perpetually rebuilding since 1957, but yes, I think they are doing something right. James, what are your thoughts on the Detroit Lions and also some of these other teams out there that did well?
For the Detroit Lions, it is a big sigh of relief. They're finally starting to pick smart, like you said. Fairly matching with Ndamukong Suh. Mikel LaSure joining with Jahvid Best, going to be a nice 1-2 combo in the backfield, especially when Best has the injury concerns. And yeah, Titus Young has been compared by many people to be the next type of Deshaun Jackson type receiver. So match a young Deshaun Jackson with Calvin Johnson and hopefully Matthew Stafford throwing the ball to him, and you can have a really tough team out in Detroit. I actually heard on an ESPN radio talking that somebody tweeted in to say, I have been a Green Bay Packers fan my whole life, and for the first time in my life, I am afraid of the Detroit Lions. I think that says it right there because they've shored up everything, their defensive line and their offensive firepower. The only issue is their biggest need was the secondary, and they didn't attack that until in the later rounds.
Well, it's not like that division has the best quarterbacks, though, either. So I think that's another reason why they decided to go with Fairley.
Yeah, well, you still got to deal with Aaron Rodgers twice a year though. So that I mean, whether you have tough quarterbacks with Chicago and Minnesota, may be a little bit under the radar, but still, you need to consider you got to play Aaron Rodgers and the Packers twice a year.
And moving along to another team in the NFC that I'm very impressed with, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. What they did was a very gutsy move, moving up to take the spot from Cleveland and going after Julio Jones. That was just epic in my book.
Well, I mean, that was scary when I saw that. I mean, that was just scary. I mean, they were 14-2 last year. I think Julio Jones can be the guy that gets them over the hump. I mean, people will say they gave up all those draft picks just for one player, let alone a receiver. I mean, this guy has been called Randy Moss version 2 for a reason, and I don't think he's gonna have the same impact Moss did when he came to Minnesota. But Roddy White, Julio Jones, Matty Ice, and Michael Turner—that's a lot of offensive weapons there. So I think this was a smart move. They want to win the Super Bowl this coming season, if there is a season, and they're I like the pick.
No, I agree. You said it right on. They want to win right now. They think they're one plug away, so they'll go ahead and get rid of some of their future picks to make that one pick for Julio Jones. And you missed one other big target. They still got Tony Gonzalez going over the middle, so that'll open things up on the outside for Jones and White even more. I like the pick too. I'm scared to see what this combination can do.
Could we perhaps predict an NFC Championship game between the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons?
I wouldn't go that far.
Playoffs? Don't talk
I
about
said last year
playoffs?
that Detroit was playoff bound, and if it weren't for two should-have-been wins against Chicago, they would have been right there in the bubble. So I can definitely see Detroit at least as a playoff team. Now, as for NFC Championship game, that's probably, stretching it a bit.
That's not happening, yeah.
At least on paper right now, they're looking good, so...
Which is a start.
Yeah, young talent, they can stay healthy. That's the way it'll work.
Now, other teams that did really fantastic out there, you have the Arizona Cardinals drafting for value. Houston did a very nice job in showing up their defense there, as well as the Indianapolis Colts. Your thoughts on those, James?
For the Colts especially, I love that they get Costanzo, first of all. I think he is going to be an absolute beast up front. But then trading up to get Ben Igualana has been a huge thing because Manning was just on his backside too much last year. So be able to shore up that offensive line with some young talent, I think, is a very, very good thing for Indianapolis. And you might be seeing some pretty big numbers from Peyton Manning this year as a result.
Yeah, they did, Jeff, adjust their biggest need with Costanzo coming in now. I also like the pick Dylan Carter. I think he'll be a solid contributor as a rookie. And he's a very good pick for the end of the fourth round for getting him that late. So I really like the Colts there, too.
I'll tell you, one of the things I really liked about the Houston Texans is they picked up the quarterback T.J. Yates, who had a very, very good year this past year, I thought. And I'm looking at that guy as somebody that could replace Matt Schaub here maybe in another year or two if they bring him along just right. But the other thing I really like is about J.J. Watt in the first round, the defensive end, and then going right into the second round and picking up Brooks Reed. I mean, that was a terrific 1-2 punch to solidify their woeful defensive line.
Yeah, I agree. I love Brooks Reed. I think he's going to be a great player. A lot of comparisons to Clay Matthews, and I think they're right on. I think Brooks Reed could have been an easy middle to late first-round pick, and he slid all the way to Houston. I think it's a great pick. My only question with the Texans is Amukamara was still on the board at that point. I'm wondering whether they would have been better off to try to go for Amukamara instead of going for J.J. Watt. I mean, that's probably being a little bit nitpicky on them, but that's just a little question with the opponents they have.
I think Watt and Reed will help out that secondary a lot, actually. I think they'll bring less pressure to them. Like you said, Greg, I like T.J. Yates a lot. He is a tough competitor. And Harris is a strong corner. And so, yeah, they did overall have a solid draft. I think that defense is going to be great. And, James, I'm not going to be as worried about that secondary as you would be. But, I mean, yeah, it is hard not to take Amukamara in that situation. But I think they did make the right choice here.
I think they're just two different styles of players, and I think Watts kind of fit the the mindset of the Texans more than Prince Amukamara. But now, speaking about Prince Amukamara, the Giants, really, I mean, here's this guy knocking on the door there, and the Giants are up. Heck yeah, I'm taking Prince Amukamara.
Can you blame him? I mean, he fell all the way. I mean, I was hoping around that point that some of the teams around the Super Bowl and conference championships would be looking to trade up for him. So I'll tell you one thing. I'm glad that the New York organization decided to listen to their fans as they're chanting for Amukamara at Radio City Music Hall. I'm glad that they're actually listening to their fans for what they want when the fans are as educated as anybody else out there.
I'm not. I wish they would have ignored him and the Steelers would have got him. But he probably wouldn't have drafted that far anyway.
Hey, one thing here. I know we do have listeners up north of us here, and I do need to tip the hat to the Cleveland Browns for having a darn good draft this year as well. Cleveland basically picking up Phil Taylor. What a run stuffer this guy is. Very, very good pick. When they found that they couldn't get what they wanted at the fourth pick of the draft, they traded with Atlanta. They got Phil Taylor, and got Jabal Sheard in the second round, and then Greg Little also in the second round as a wide receiver. That's quite curious, but a very, very good draft by the Cleveland Browns.
It's kind of a wild card pick. I mean, he was ineligible last season. But he has the physical abilities to be great. Like you said, I like how they went after those Pitt players, and not just because I like the Pitt Panthers and I'm a fan, but I think Jason Pinkston's a great lineman. I watch him in almost every Pitt game. And I like Jabal Sheard a lot. This guy's a monster. If he didn't have character issues, like when he threw that guy through a glass window or glass door, whatever it was, he would have been a first rounder. So I really actually like the Browns draft this year.
Well, especially when they have so many holes that they need to try to fill up, to be able to trade down, get 4 quality picks over this year and next year from the Falcons is going to be a great startup for the Cleveland Browns.
And for all my friends who are Cleveland Browns fans out there, hey, you didn't go after a quarterback. Good for you.
Yeah, Colt McCoy better be your quarterback of the future, Cleveland.
One of the big surprises of the draft, though, I thought were the 3 quarterbacks that everybody was talking about Cam Newton and the company, but the 3 quarterbacks that caught my eye by surprise were, of course, Jake Locker ending up in Tennessee, Blaine Gabbert, of all people, going to Jacksonville, and, of course, Christian Ponder. Ponder this.
Well, I mean, I don't have necessarily a problem with the Vikings taking Ponder, just kind of early. I don't think anyone at all really had him going in the first round. A lot of people tell me he's a great quarterback. Some even say he's the best in the draft. So they must see something in him. But you feel like they could probably get a better pick, a better draft selection for the pick that they had.
James, I know you love this Ponder guy. Tell me a little bit about Ponder and why you feel that he's probably the best quarterback in the draft.
Well, Ponder had a bit of a weak senior season, so he kind of flew under the radar. But come to bowl game, come the Senior Bowl, come the Pro Day, and especially at the NFL Combine, this guy was far and away the best quarterback out there. He sees the fields insanely well. He's a tough kid, and most importantly, he's a smart kid. He's a pure quarterback in every sense of the word, that he can manage a team and be smart enough to know when to take a sack. And I think it's a great move for the Vikings to get him, but with him flying under the radar so well, I think this pick is still very, very early.
Yeah, you feel like they probably could have got him in the second round or something. Like you said, I have no problem with them taking him. He's a great quarterback. If it wasn't for his, drop-off in the senior season, yeah, he'd be up there more. But you just feel like, yeah, you could get a better value pick for the selection that they had.
From what I've read and from what I've seen of Christian Ponder, he throws the ball much like Chad Pennington. And he's got a nice touch. He's not the strongest arm out there, but he's very effective and very smart. And that's something that very poised. And granted that Minnesota did not do much with their offensive line, you're going to need somebody that's poised back there in order to make something happen.
Well, and having this smart guy, let me tell you, it doesn't take much brains to be able to know, hey, I'm struggling, let's hand the ball off to Adrian Peterson. So you need to be able to have that type of quarterback. I even kind of look at him coming in immediately as a Sanchez type guy, coming in for the Jets over the last 2 years and leading them to the conference championship. I think this guy, if Ponder comes in, hands the ball off to Peterson 20 to 30 times a game, the Vikings can be on the verge of a playoff run again.
What a mess it would be if Favre comes out of retirement again, right?
Yeah, they're done with him.
Yeah, he's done.
You said the magic word there, though. He's sort of a Sanchez type guy, because if you think back when Sanchez came on the scene, everybody thought, oh, this guy isn't ready. But he stepped up and really, really made it happen. So, yeah, I think you're right there, James. I think we might have something with this.
Well, we'll just have to see him wait, and hopefully if they get him in right away, well, he's definitely a better quarterback than Webb. We know that much. But we'll see if Minnesota looks to bring in a veteran if and when free agency opens up. But
let's talk a little bit now about Jake Locker. And, of course, we all know John Gruden, our good friend and ex-NFL coach, is a Locker stalker. And he just fell in love with this guy as far as his mechanics and everything. But you know what? This guy was just, I don't know, he needed some work, I think. And for the Tennessee Titans to just draft, I think, on character issues only, it seems, I would have thought that Blaine Gabbert would have been a better pick for the Titans than Locker.
Yeah, I mean, that was a shocker. I mean, like you said, the only reason they didn't take Gabbert is because of the character issues Young had. And it's kind of stupid, in my opinion, just to draft a player because of what happened in the past. I mean, your quarterback could be a great guy, a great citizen or whatever, but you want someone with better physical skills and can get the ball to your receiver. But, I mean, if they see something in him, then, there's nothing we can really do about it. Maybe it turns out to be something great, but just kind of shocking. I mean, my mock draft, I didn't have him going in the first round.
Yeah, well, and that just shows what different teams look at. And, yeah, when they announced Jake Locker, my chin pretty much hit the floor, because I was expecting if they were to go quarterback, exactly, they would go Blaine Gabbert. But the more I thought about it, the more I fell in love with this pick right here at number 8. Yeah, the Titans need a quarterback, with Vince Young pretty much gone and Kerry Collins being older than dirt. But, yeah, why not Gabbert? Why not Ponder at this point even? Honestly, just thinking about the Titans and what they have had in the past, Jake Locker makes more sense. He is a more mobile quarterback. He was supposed to be the number 1 draft pick last year when he decided to stay in college for his senior season. So, I mean, there's no doubt that this guy has the talent. He has the foot speed to be able to move around there in the pocket, and especially having Chris Johnson there with him, I think they can do some stuff in that regard. I mean, option, I doubt it, but at least the ability to be able to move around in the pocket, to hand the ball off to Johnson and run like screen-type plays. I think Locker is a better fit in a Tennessee system as it is right now, especially with them keeping their coach in-house, than what Blaine Gabbert would have been for them.
Yeah, but my major concern, though, with Jake Locker is he pro-ready right now? I can't unequivocally say, yes, he is. I think this guy needs a good at least half season of some tutelage, somebody to kind of get him prepped into the whole thing, because the NFL game is twice as fast as what the college game is. And he did okay in the college game. He made some bad decisions, I think. He had some accuracy problems. I hate to set this kid up for failure. And I think that this is what could happen. I hope it doesn't, because he seems to be a pretty neat kid. But this is something that I thought was kind of a risky move, a very surprising move by the Tennessee Titans. And
Well, let me ask you, Greg. What quarterbacks in this draft do you feel are immediately NFL ready?
Ryan Mallett. I mean, I'm not Greg, but I mean, I just think it's such a surprise that he went in the 3rd round. I mean, look, the Patriots picked him, and he's, in my opinion, the best, the most NFL ready. Ask any general manager; they said the same thing. But it was just a character issue. I'm sorry to cut you off, Greg, but it just, to me, it's surprising.
I would have said Mallett too, but I think Blaine Gabbert, I think, is more NFL ready than any of them. You take a look at Gabbert's techniques, his skill set, his quickness, his decision making. I think he's all around much better of a field general. And of course, Ponder, I think too. I think is a little bit more NFL ready than Locker.
No, I can definitely agree with that. I just feel, I don't know why, it's kind of an instinct part of me too that just says Jake Locker is the better fit in Tennessee. I mean, Blaine Gabbert worked with a spread offense for his 4 years at Missouri, where he had 3 offensive linemen to the left of the center half the time. So, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting transition. I mean, but even looking at Blaine Gabbert, though, in the Jaguars, I still can't believe, frankly, that the Jaguars decided to go away from David Garrard.
Yeah, that was very surprising, considering that Garrard was their made man, and that was the reason why that they voted him to that position itself. They need receivers out there more than anything else down there in Jacksonville. They don't need another quarterback, but maybe they're thinking that Gabbert is the quarterback of the future. Who knows?
Who do they have at receiver beyond Sims Walker? I can't think of anybody at the moment. I mean, they have him. They still got Jones-Drew in the backfield, but they don't, exactly, you said it right there, they don't have any weapons for him to throw to.
Mercedes Lewis, pretty good.
Not a bad at a tight end, but yeah, I mean, you want to talk about setting a quarterback up for failure.
Since we did talk about these 3 quarterbacks, there's a 4th quarterback in the mix that we kind of failed to talk about, but was a rather surprising pickup by the New England Patriots, and that's Ryan Mallett. Alex, you have some thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it was brilliant. When I heard Ryan Mallett went to the Patriots, I just thought it was awesome. Not because I like the Patriots. I thought it was just a great fit. Like I said, ask any manager. Ryan Mallett was the most pro-ready quarterback. But the character issues was a concern. He was always out partying. I think he even missed a couple combine appearance or something. He was missing in action from those things. But for a guy with character issues and talent, the Patriots are the best fit. I mean, Belichick, look what he did with Moss, and he kept him in check. And of course, Mallett's not going to step right in. Not even in probably 3 years. Brady's going to be there for a while. He signed a 5-year extension, but when Brady's ready to go, Mallett's going to step right in, and he's going to be great. So Mallett's a long-term solution, not a short-term solution. I think he was just excellent pick for a 3rd rounder.
I would have to. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I agree to an extent. I mean, yeah, when Brady has 5 more years on his deal, and I can see him turning into the next Brett Favre, playing until he's 59. But I mean, I like Mallett. I had him a month ago. I had him looking to be a top 10 pick at quarterback. But yeah, the character issues and the lack of foot speed in the pocket, mobility in the pocket, is what's driven him way down to the fact where no one would touch him with a 10-foot pole. So I think it's a good pick. I'm kind of surprised that New England would go for it, especially seeing as they just signed Brady for a long extension. I mean, yeah, he's got to retire eventually, but when he does retire, Mallett's going to be hitting on 30. At that point, they're going to be looking to draft another quarterback.
Well, I mean, Mallett's a big guy. I mean, you're concerned about his foot speed, but it's kind of like how big Ben is. He's not the fastest guy, but no one can bring him down.
Yeah, well, at least Ben can shuffle his feet and move around the pocket a bit. I mean, Mallett would trip over his own shoelaces and get touchdown for a sack.
Yeah, putting Mallett in a walking boot like the way Big Ben was in this past year, I think he'd probably fall over. But
but do either of you want to question Bill Belichick?
Yeah, I think I will. But on the same token, I know why he did this too, because Mallett has good arm strength. And he led a very competitive team this year. And Brady has shown that he's starting to break down. And he needs somebody there who's a bit youthful. And, hey, Brady got the job because of a spleen injury. Who was that guy is he still playing?
Drew Bledsoe.
Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah,
that was the most ugliest injury I ever saw that ever happened to a quarterback, is what happened to Drew Bledsoe. And then there pops in good old Brady, the 6th-round draft pick, and ended up becoming a brilliant 6th-round draft pick, and I think he's going to work that magic on Mallett as well. So, yeah, kudos to Belichick out there.
Well, I mean, I don't think Brady's breaking down. I mean, yeah, he's having surgery on his foot, but last year he was 34 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. I mean, that doesn't sound like he's declining to me.
But no, he is. His health has been a concern. He's been on the health watch there for a while, and the reason why Brady has the success that he has is that underneath game that New England has. You know, the Wes Welker using the wide receiver like a tight end as an undersized tight end. And they have a ton of speed there in the underneath game itself. So that's just that whole Belichick style of offense it's what's lending well to Tom Brady. Not that I'm downplaying Tom Brady. Tom Brady is an awesome quarterback. Very cool under pressure. Can rally the troops. But he's starting to break down. He's starting to get a little long on the tooth right now. And especially when you see him missing large chunks of games like that, I can understand why Belichick would think, hey, you know, I think it's time to maybe find the next heir apparent.
I'll just say this. I will not question Bill Belichick because I'm sure he has a camera on me right now.
Oh, you know he's taping this.
Exactly.
Well, we talked about the good. We talked about some pretty good teams and some surprising picks. Now let's talk about the not so good, the bad, and the not so pretty, and, well, let's face it, the downright ugly picks. So leading us off in the not so good and the bad area itself, I have to put the Carolina Panthers in that particular category because, yeah, you got Cam Newton, but what else did you get? You're the first pick. You're the lead of the pack. You have the whole field ahead of you, but you got no pass rushers and you got no speed at wide receiver, but you got a quarterback. But you know what? You'll have Tony Pike and you got Jimmy Clausen. I mean, how many quarterbacks does a team need?
They're still possibly getting Matt Moore back, too, from last year. I think this is one of the worst number one picks of all time. Yeah, Cam Newton's a great player. I can see him being a Jamarcus Russell type player and being a complete bust as a number one pick, or I could see him going and doing great things. But either way, I think Carolina had so many other better options out there to fit their team needs. And then, yeah, when they did absolutely nothing of significance the rest of the draft, just makes me shake my head.
Yeah, in my mock draft, I had them taken fairly. But, yeah, like you said, Moore's coming back and they have Clausen. I mean, I don't think Newton's going to be Jamarcus Russell. But, yeah, you feel like they could have done more, get better value. And then when you have two quarterbacks already, you feel like they should go defense. So either Fairley or, you know, if Daquan Bowers wasn't hurt, that would have made more sense. But I wouldn't say the Panthers are ugly in terms of, you know, their draft status, but just definitely not, you know, amazing first round type of deal there. So I'm not impressed by it.
Yeah, not a good draft at all, I don't think, by Carolina, who actually had the number one pick. Another team that I was a little disappointed in were the New York Jets. They got no pass rushers. They picked up a wide receiver in the 7th round. Are they planning to keep Braylon Edwards? Are they planning to keep Santonio Holmes? What gives there? I'm not sure as to what the Jets were trying to prove during the draft. And, of course, the 49ers of Minnesota also had a kind of a questionable draft. Now, with Minnesota, we were talking about how great Ponder is and wonderful things about that, but Minnesota does not have an offensive line. Unless they go out and buy an offensive line, Ponder's just going to be pondering the sky.
Yeah, he'll be flat on his back more often than not, and that's not the way to bring in. Yeah, that's not the way to start off an NFL career. I don't see the Vikings as too bad because, I mean, well, yeah, they got Ponder too early, but I mean, same sort of thing as Carolina. They just didn't do anything impressive. They didn't do what everyone thought they would have. The one thing that keeps Minnesota from going into this part is drafting Kyle Rudolph to give a little bit of underneath help to Christian Ponder. But you mentioned the 49ers. I couldn't stand what they did with their draft picks. I mean, first of all, they passed on Blaine Gabbert when he fell right into their laps. And they pick who? Aldon Smith. The about 10 picks too early in my book for Alvin Smith there. But then they trade up in the second round to get Colin Kaepernick. I mean, Kaepernick's a good player, but he is the same style of play and passer as Blaine Gabbert with a little bit more foot speed. So you're passing on Blaine Gabbert to get a guy 10 picks too early, and then you trade up to get someone of the same style as Gabbert. Just another one just making me shake my head for San Francisco.
Well, the thing that really got me a bit confused about San Francisco is you've got a coach out there who coached at Stanford who tried to recruit Blaine Gabbert to go to Stanford. So, now you have Harbaugh out there who's coaching the 49ers, and here's Gabbert that's going to fall right in their lap. And who does he pick up? He gets Alden Smith, who basically is a 4-3 type player. And of course, we all know San Francisco runs a 3-4 defense, so it's like, well, what are they trying to do? Changing defenses is not an easy thing to do. And unless you just have a complete overhaul, which the 49ers didn't do, you start to scratch your head as to what are they thinking?
Well, and good luck changing that defense when you can't even talk to your players.
Thank you.
Greg, I was going to mention the Jets. You weren't very high on the Jets, but I don't think they did that bad. I don't think they did great either, but I'd give them about a B. I like Muhammad Wilkerson a lot. I think he's going to fit in there great, especially with Rex Ryan's 3-4 defense. I like Kenrick Ellis to fill the void left by Chris Jenkins. I mean, he's a big dude. He's 346 pounds. So I'm really not understanding what you're seeing that's so bad about this draft that you put him in with the ugly.
Well, they're not ugly. It's just not a good draft. I mean, it's not like a Seattle draft or maybe even a New England draft, but I mean, it's not a great draft either. I mean, they need help with wide receiver. They picked up a receiver in the 7th round. It was almost like an afterthought. There's no real pass rusher. Yeah, Muhammad Wilkerson is a pretty good guy, but I'm not sure where they're going with this thing here.
Well, what do you think about them picking up Greg McElroy at the 7th round to be a signal caller? I mean, this guy's a proven... I mean, obviously he's not going to be starting or playing anytime soon. But, this guy he's a winner, and I know, Dotson, you know more than anybody because you're a college guru. I mean, this guy's a proven winner, so...
He's lost, I think, 5 games since his freshman year in high school.
Yeah, and 7th rounders really don't do anything. But this caught my eye when I saw this. So I actually think it's something to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, you might be right there, too. So it's not a stellar draft, considering what Rex Ryan has done in the past. But maybe we didn't have the players that would make this a stellar draft for Rex Ryan as well. So yeah, more to come though on the Jets, no doubt.
Yeah. My pick for the Al Davis bonehead move of the year definitely is Al Davis and the Oakland Raiders, though. It's easy to say that, though, when they don't have a first-round pick. But when they take their first pick being Stefan Wisniewski from Penn State, middle of the 2nd round, Wisniewski's a great player. I've watched him for the last 3 years up here at Penn State, and I think he's going to be an absolutely great NFL offensive lineman. I still think this pick was a round too early. They could have got him in the 3rd round. But then who did they take in the 3rd round? DeMarcus Van Dyke. A nobody. He just has great speed, and he's thin. Well, Al Davis loves speed, so guess what? That's what he's doing. He's going to draft him. So a couple of picks that just maybe go, really, Oakland? Really?
Well, I think Wisniewski's uncle's there, and I actually think that might have something to do with it, too.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a good point. That's definitely probably what got him drafted there. And I'll say it again. Wisniewski is going to be a great player in the NFL. I just don't think he is ready enough at the moment and to have been picked where he did.
Well, technically, this was almost like a first-round draft pick for the Raiders itself, being that this was their first pick. I think there was far more value on the board than Wisniewski. I can agree with you there. But I want to give Al Davis a little bit of a break because I think the team that just did miserably in the draft were the Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll wasn't coaching for the longest time because of, I think, bad drafts like this. When your first pick is offensive tackle James Carpenter, when another guy out there who went to the Chicago Bears was just right there, and Gabe Carimi. I would think Gabe Carimi is a far better player than James Carpenter.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's my team to have the worst draft this year. I mean, they also made a questionable pick when they selected that receiver from Georgia, Chris Durham, in the 4th round. I mean, I know Pete Carroll loves big receivers, and Durham's 6'5", but he's not a 4th-round talent. And also, Seattle needed to upgrade their secondary in this draft, but I don't feel they did so with their 3 late-round picks featuring 2 corners and a safety. So, I mean, Carpenter's a good player, yeah. Just, like you said, when there's Karimi there, it's kind of a head-scratcher. So
yeah, it's like, what gives, guys?
Exactly.
So, after seeing so much success from Pete Carroll at USC, it is very disappointing to see this kind of draft happen again for him.
Another team that I wasn't really too happy about in the draft, they did have a couple decent pickups, was the New England Patriots. I mean, we're all high on Ryan Mallett. That's kind of nice and kind of a warm, fuzzy feeling. And Nate Solder wasn't a bad first-round pick, but where were they going with their other picks? I just wasn't sure. This was not a typical Bill Belichick-style draft.
I'm a little higher up on the Patriots than you are, Greg. Yeah, like I said, I like Mallett. I also like Shane Vereen. He was a productive college player, and he was a good pick near the end of the 2nd round. So I think he's a great running back from Cal, and they'll probably be losing BenJarvus Green-Ellis. I also like the corner Dowling they picked. He's going to add to that secondary that's depleted. One thing I noticed about this draft, though, they did not address their need for a wide receiver. They had that wide receiver from Smith still available, I believe, when he was up. They didn't take him. So overall, I think it was a good draft, not a head-scratching draft. The only reason I could think of them not taking maybe a receiver when that was one of their biggest needs, I don't know if Randy Moss is going to end up coming back to their team with all the offseason hype about his possible return. But I think it's something to keep an eye out for. They didn't take one receiver in all 7 rounds, so it's a possible scenario, I believe.
Well, my biggest concern, though, and James, you could probably echo my sentiment on this, is the fact that they never really had much of a pass rush. And here they are, they're going after cornerbacks, and it's like, what happened to a strong pass rush here? I'm not sure as to why they're drafting cornerbacks in that position.
I have no idea. In all honesty, I agree with you. They're taking cornerbacks to solidify a secondary, but that secondary is going to keep getting held out to dry unless the defensive line and linebackers can start getting pressure on them. So yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I don't know how they can go about and keep trying to beef up a secondary when they're just going to be out there on islands anyway. And I think what bothers me about the Patriots is just how this is so un-Belichick-like, though. He has been notorious, at least in my mind, over the last 5 years, for picking the best available players. And the picks that he's making, in my mind, aren't even the best picks at that position at that time. Nate Solder, I still think Anthony Costanzo is a better offensive lineman, offensive tackle, and he ended up going at 22 to the Colts instead of 17 to the Patriots. I look at Dowling and the number 33 pick. I think Aaron Williams from Texas and the Raheem Moore from UCLA, both guys who went in the early to mid-second round, I think were better secondary picks. So I'm a little bit shocked in that regard, just because you always see Belichick taking the best player available or trading away from more draft picks, and we only saw him trade, I think, once in the entire draft.
Yeah, it was very un-Belichick-like, and I think that's what was the most head-scratching thing about that. So
I don't feel that way. I respectfully disagree, but I guess we'll see in a few years.
Well, seeing as we're talking about Bill Belichick and drafting the best player available, let me ask you guys, who do you think was the best athlete, the best player in this draft? To me, it's no doubt Von Miller. In my mind, I thought he was the best athlete overall and just the best pure player there was out there. Now, going second overall, I think was wrong. Could Carolina have gone after number 1? Possibly. I don't think he would have been a good fit there. I think their pick needed to be yeah, either getting a quarterback to, like you said, get the cheeks in the seat, or to knock out or with the defensive line. At number 2, no, Denver needs the same thing. They had a terrible run defense, and their 3-4 defense does not have the linebackers, especially inside linebacker, to be coming and stopping the run. They needed to get Marcel Darius. So, I mean, even if you are the best player in the draft, that doesn't mean that you're the best fit in any specific team. To make a team better, you got to look at what pieces you already have, not what pieces seem best.
Right. My personal pick is the best all-around athlete in this particular draft would have been Patrick Peterson. The cornerback that went to the Cardinals. I mean, the guy's phenomenal. And I think my next would have been Julio Jones in Atlanta. But once again, these are players that fit the system, that fit the mold. And for a team that doesn't need a cornerback, if they drafted Peterson, it's not a good fit. You know, I mean, it's got to be a good fit in order for it to work.
Well, and my question back to you, though, is when you say best athlete, what's the positions that come to mind?
Honestly? Well, yeah, I was going to say a skill position. You guys are probably going to think I'm nuts, but just hear me out. I think the best player in this draft is Julio Jones. I would have him out of all the first-round picks. If I'm just starting a team and I have no players and I get to pick one of those 25, I pick Julio Jones. The guy's a freak, all right? Like I said, he was called Moss version 2 for a reason. This guy's big. He's strong. He's like T.O. Moss, Kelvin. He's like all that combined. So I think he's the best individual NFL-ready type of player in the draft.
The only thing I would even try to argue with that is comparing him to A.J. Green, because I think A.J. Green is just as good, if not better. But yeah, you're right. Julio is an absolute beast. So I mean, but in all honesty, I look at the two of them. I've called one by the other's name. They both play that well, and they're both that solid of players that I could start my team with either one of them without a doubt.
The reason I have Jones over Green is just because of his physical stature. I mean, he's, like I said, he's bulk. He makes more freakish catches, basically, than at least what I saw on highlights.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with Green that I saw, he was suspended for the first 4 games, and as soon as he came back, it was like a light switch turned on for Georgia. All of a sudden, they knew how to play offense again, and Green scored 2 touchdowns every week for like the next 4 or 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's stuff like that flies under the radar that catches my eye a little bit more.
What about you, Greg? What do you think, Green or Jones?
Green. But Jones, I mean, it's a 1-2. It's like a 1-1A. You know, it's you know.
Jones can be a battery ram too. I mean, he can just. I also trust him catching a pass in the middle and running over people. So.
Yeah. But is he going to have the issues that are going to be the issues that the T.O. and the Randy Mosses have? You know, that to me is a, you know, you can be the greatest player in the world and be the biggest head case and be a bust.
As long as he's not Ocho Cinco. I mean, come on.
Sadly, you got to worry about this for almost every single running back and wide receiver, it seems, that comes out of the draft anymore.
Yeah.
Every single one. It's the same thing as well. This guy has a track record. This guy threw a guy through a glass wall. I mean, I know that was a defensive lineman, but still, just like,
hey, Craig,
this guy tweets too much.
He was at Pitt. Threw a paper boy into a moving vehicle. All right? So, I mean, you know, these are issues that even back in the day when I was going through school were still issues. So,
yeah.
Character is an issue here. So.
I'm not that big on. I don't worry about character issues as much as some people do. As long as you have the right coach, I don't care who you are. If you're Bill Belichick, draft, who is that? Jimmy Smith from Colorado. Draft John Baldwin. Draft T.O. You know, so.
You know, and looking over all of our notes here and all of our discussions, there's one team that we did not really talk a whole heck of a lot about. As a matter of fact, we didn't even mention them at all. And that's our Pittsburgh Steelers. And being that we found it worthy to give Cleveland a mention at the top of this cast, we definitely need to talk about the Steelers here at the bottom of the cast and how they did on their draft. Your thoughts on this, James?
I love the pick of Cam Haywood. I think he's going to be a good fit. I mean, another Ohio State player. I mean, as a Penn Stater, obviously doesn't get me too hyped up at the beginning, but they produce great players, and I love seeing them come to my Steelers after they're graduated from Ohio State. After that, I would have liked to see him go cornerback a little bit earlier than the third and fourth round, but I think they got pretty solid players in Brown from Texas and Allen from the Citadel, I believe he was. So I'm happy with those. The only pick that I am a bit worried about is their second round pick, the offensive tackle from Florida, Marcus Gilbert. And he's one of the top defensive linemen in the draft, we feel, but again, I think there were a few better picks out there at that time. A few better picks even at his position at that point.
I have to kind of agree with you there. But go ahead, Alex.
I mean, Florida linemen are typically good, and of course the Steelers wanted Pouncey, and this guy played alongside him. So I mean, I'm going to trust their word for it. I believe in Kevin Colbert. He's given the Steelers success over the years, so I actually like the pick a lot. I mean, I don't know too much about him, but I'll take their word for it that he's a great lineman. So I just don't understand why people were kind of jumping on this pick like it's such a head scratcher.
The only thing that sticks out to me is you said it, the fact that it was a guy from Florida. So again, it's because once you have Marquise Pouncey, yeah, you're going to have a little bit of a camaraderie, be able to know what you have next to you between Pouncey and Gilbert. But it's, to me, it's just maybe a little bit early still for him, and a couple better picks could have been made at offensive lineman. But I definitely understand why they needed to pick him for the offensive line, and especially with the fact that he is from Florida and he is in touch with Pouncey, I'm sure definitely is going to help, is what swayed that decision.
Well, Pouncey was a major factor in this particular move itself. I mean, there was a great chemistry there. And, with this guy there, definitely, that's one of the things that they need is some chemistry on that offensive line. The guys played with them in the past, and there's obviously that comfort level. But the guy that I am absolutely in love with right now is Cam Hayward, the Craig Ironhead Hayward's son. This guy, a fantastic player, not the character problem that his dad was when his dad played at Pitt, by the way. This guy is going to basically bring some youth into that defensive line, which is certainly aging, and possibly even a replacement there for Aaron Smith, I'm thinking. So, and then Curtis Brown as a cornerback coming in the third round, I think he's going to fit in nicely, especially with the injuries that we're running into right now with Troy Polamalu and company out there. We definitely need some depth out there at cornerback. So I'm really happy that Curtis Brown came on board there as well as Cortez Allen. So I think that's definitely some help there on the corners that will be definitely helpful there.
Well, you feel like when they drafted those corners, they weren't exactly the cream of the crop. I like the Steelers' first-round pick, just like both you guys do, in Hayward. I mean, there's not too much for me to add at this point, although he's been on the Steelers' radar all off-season. He was their number one choice for a while, if he fell to them, that is. These corners can be solid. Like I said, I trust Kevin Colbert. And like I said, I like Gilbert. I don't know much about the Citadel. I don't know much about Cortez Allen.
I hear good things. I hear good things about him, so I'm hopeful.
Well, I mean, like I said, I trust Kevin Colbert in it. I said in our mock draft that the Steelers should draft heavy with linemen and corners all this draft, and they didn't get a corner until the third round, but they got two of them. So, I mean, we'll see. I think it's a solid draft, not an amazing draft, but I'm really high on Hayward, and so we'll see what happens. And also, another guy to keep an eye on, actually, is Baron Bash from Texas Tech. they drafted him as a third down back, and this is what this guy's going to be. I know he's a 7th rounder, and I know I said I'm not most 7 rounders don't do much, but he's going to fill in great as a third down back.
Hey, Baron Batch was a huge factor in my college fantasy football dominance until playoffs arrived. So I know what you're talking about with him. I think he can be a big deal in Pittsburgh as a third down type back, or maybe as an every down back if Rashard Mendenhall keeps tweeting the way that he's tweeting.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. But you know what? There's one thing we have to talk about, and it's that social media and football players do not mix. So, and especially if you're a football player that is not a political science major, you have no reason at all to be tweeting anything about current events or public relations or anything else like that. So, watch out.
Well, I mean, yeah, these young men have the all these players have the right to social media. Do I think it's the smartest thing? No, I don't at all. So, I mean, take it for what it is. Rashard Mendenhall is kind of an idiot. I mean, if you look at his other tweets, it's just kind of along the same lines. He doesn't even have any type of credibility. It's not.
Wait, I love him as a football player, but will he be president? No.
No. He's not going to be the next Barack Obama. That's for sure.
Well, on that note, gentlemen, it's been a real entertaining 2011 draft. Very heavy on the offensive linemen. A few skilled positions out there. Some surprises out there. I think. Who do you guys think are the overall winners? If you were to take one team as the overall winner, who do you believe is the overall winner in this 2011 draft?
I'm gonna go with the Lions. Actually, I take that back. In terms of right now, it's the Falcons.
I'll take your pick of the Lions, and I think they gained the most, or they had the most to gain, and they gained it.
Okay, I would have to say it's the Lions as well. But
yeah, well, I'm a Lions/Falcons if I'm allowed to do that.
Now, the team that just absolutely bombed, that was the most disappointing team. Not as far as, just the most disappointing team in the draft.
Seahawks. I mean, Carpenter that early, come on. And
yeah. I can. Yeah, Seahawks is a good pick. I'll go with my Raiders again though. I love seeing Al Davis make bonehead moves.
Actually, the team, and I'm going to go way out on a limb here on this one, and my Carolina fans out there, you're going to hate me, but you guys stunk the joint up. You don't realize what talent you have down there. You had no reason to pick Cam Newton and not address the other issues. Carolina, I'm sorry. I think you made.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. I'll agree with that 100%. I definitely think that is the single biggest bonehead move in the draft was right there.
Yeah. Well, on that note, it's been real. It's been fun, and let's see how these paper picks, these paper Tigers and Lions and Bears and Falcons and all that stuff, how these players on paper will pan out in the 2011-2012 season. I'm Greg Bichero, James Dotson, Alex Galaverson. We are 360 Sports Network, 3SN on Twitter. Good night.